So just a quick recap. Um, so parasympathetic nervous system, we're talking about acetylcholine. Its action is largely anabolic, and its job is to provide nutrients. So when you see someone overweight, for example, Bisma and everyone else, when someone is overweight, you know that their parasympathetic is dominant. Okay, that there is there's a strong anabolic activity in this person, which is not to say that their alpha isn't high, but probably their beta is a bit low. But um, so parasympathetic stimulates alpha sympathetic, which is noradrenaline. So the key word for noradrenaline is, in terms of its action, is constriction. But as Dr. Diet says, it's about preparation, holding in place until there's the right time for release. Yeah. So it's part of the preparation, part of the choreography and organization that must happen in order for things to work well. So just like with the urinary bladder that I was saying before, you don't want to be peeing like every second. It's good that the urinary bladder holds enough urine in place for an hour, 2 hours, however long people's bladder can do so. And then you need to go for a wee. And alpha stimulates beta, which is adrenaline, and is the release. Yeah, is the execution, is the relaxation phase. Um, and so Dr. Hidayat has modified this diagram because, as he says, beta does not stimulate para. What happens is that adrenaline breaks down. And so just by default, we return to our para state. And this cycle, which is what you'll find in JEMMA panel, is called the neurocycling. So this para, alpha, beta, para, alpha, beta. That's what there is understood by neurocycling. Yeah, this cycle within the nervous system. So spasmophilia is not an endobiogenic concept per se. This exists in normal and medical literature as calcium deficiency, but it's overt calcium deficiency, often to do with parathormone overactivity. But as always with endobiogenics, we look for the subtle. We look for the subtleties. We look for the signs and symptoms that appear before overt disease appears. And so spasmophilia is linked to calcium regulation, but there's a much deeper investigation of it with endobiogenics, as you might expect. So the problem with spasmophilia is that it degrades the terrain. It eats up, it consumes our buffering capacity. And this, because our buffering capacity is what we rely on to recover quickly, it's like having money in the bank. When we've only got a couple of pounds, a bit of money left in the bank, or if now we're in debt, that's when disease becomes overt. So the mechanism of spasmophilia is there's a dysfunction with this neurocycling, with the ANS sequencing. So there's a high para and a high alpha, and there's insufficient or blocked beta, as we've just been talking about. And there's also, because of this, yes, calcium is not the problem. Because of this dysfunction, because of high para and high alpha, there is an overconsumption of calcium on a day-to-day level, which means that when it comes to responding to an emergency, to a stressful event, you cannot meet demand. And I would encourage you to really go and check for yourself where calcium is used in the body. It is used everywhere, for everything, for the release of all the hormones, to release insulin, for sperm uh, production. It's for everything. Calcium is used for everything. So this is why it's important to understand the concept of high alpha, high para, because actually those are, for example, someone with Raynaud's syndrome, so they have permanently cold hands, which means they've got a very, very high alpha. That means they're consuming a lot of energy to maintain that high alpha. And that's just them sitting looking out a window. This is not them having to go have an exam or going through a divorce or having an operation or getting very sick with a fever and infection. Yeah. So already, before any of that happens, they're already consuming a lot of calcium to maintain this situation. Yeah. This is a 24-year-old woman who recently graduated from a master's. So she did her bachelor in science, then her master's back to back in mathematics, in applied mathematics. So 4 years she was doing intense mental activity. Yeah, so maths is not art, it's not music, it's intense mental activity and a male-dominated subject as well. So she was having to prove herself in that situation. And at the same time, she was also paying her way by working as an online maths tutor. And she was very busy with that. So, and then she had a very busy social life. And now when she saw me, she was living back home for a few months, working to save up to go traveling. And she was leaving in a couple of weeks' time and traveling back at weekends to see her long-term boyfriend. A very happy home life, a very stable, happy home life, busy, happy social life, and she's in this long-term relationship. Her presenting problem was that when she runs fast, and she runs 3 kilometers like minimum regularly, afterwards she would get intestinal cramps and spasms after she finished running. And she also experiences constipation. This all started since 20. So, evaluation of the terrain. So the constipation is going to involve alpha and the exocrine pancreas. Difficulty falling asleep is alpha is greater than para. Her demanding degree in masters in mathematics will be consuming central alpha and TRH. And the high alcohol intake over the year will be compounding. She already had a congested liver or a tendency to anyway as a teenager. We know that because she had glandular fever and she got herpes when she was a teenager. So we know that there's liver congestion and over-solicitation of the exocrine and endocrine pancreas.